Hey guys, while editing this video, I realized the last 5-10 minutes were cut off. That was because of a memory card error, but the rest is still very entertaining. So thank you for watching episode 1 of season 4, and I hope you enjoy. I was gonna clap to sync the audio, but I have a much better idea.
Nice.
There we go.
Sick.
That would be almost impossible to see on that camera, but who cares?
Still, you got the sound.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Odd Unicorn Podcast. This guy is not Andrew.
No, I am not. I do have a quote-unquote Uncle Andrew, but it is not that Andrew.
Why do you say quote-unquote? That's kind
Because
of what
it's
you
my-
say to your family.
It's my dad's best friend, not actually his.
Kind of like Tino Gropey. We call him Uncle Uncle Tino, because he was my dad's roommate. We became good friends.
Yeah, actually, my Uncle Andrew is one of the reasons my dad got saved.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He was an Air Force mechanic, went over to Italy, got saved in Italy. The church was praying for my dad there, and eventually, a couple girls from my dad's work, he worked at a bank at the time,
Yeah.
go up to him, hey, you should come to church with us. It was an Assembly of God, so it was weird.
Yeah.
But he went there, they had like a missionary speaking, and he preached on the gospel, and my dad's like, you know what, I need to get saved. Get saved. Didn't actually go to church for 2-3 months after that. Then eventually, my Uncle Andrew's like, oh, you should go to Wildwood. So, my dad went to Wildwood, which is where we're at now. So
I had no clue
now you
any of that happened.
Yeah, my dad was 23.
23, eh?
Yeah, so just under half of his life he was unsaved. And now he's a pastor.
Wow. I think we should unplug that.
Probably.
I just realized it's gonna make a ton of noise. Do you wanna unplug it quick?
Yeah, no problem. Alright. Goodbye.
Farewell, my friend.
Farewell, my
Alright.
dear.
Now that we've murdered the noisy one.
Yes. Wait, we're gonna murder me?
If we're going by that logic, it's gonna be a double homicide.
Double homicide. Or a homicide-suicide. I mean, that's...
No, that's weird. So we
That is
just
weird.
both kill each other, and it's a double homicide with no one
I mean,
to charge.
did you hear about Hurricane Hillary in California? Yeah, all the deaths by Hurricane Hillary have been ruled suicides.
Oh no! Don't start with me. Don't start with this.
No.
Oh man, yeah. No, I've
Actually,
seen.
have I even
there's
said
been
my name yet? I don't know.
It's unimportant.
Very.
We're gonna reveal it at the season finale.
Season finale.
It's just the season finale. What is his name?
Yep. It's like what Brother Alan talked about at camp. What is your name?
What is your name?
Yes.
You
can call me Ronaldo.
Yes. Now I'll give him your name. This is Reagan Longtime.
Yep.
He goes to Wildwood, as you could probably guess from that story. And we've been friends for 2 years? 3 years?
Maybe 3. Actually, because it was the first year of teen camp.
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, first year teen camp, because I started going when I was, actually, I think 4. I think I started going when I was 16.
Yeah, because I went to a year of junior camp. That's when Aaron was my counselor.
Okay.
And then the next year I went as a teen.
Yeah.
So, that was
And
something.
That was, 3 years ago, you said?
Yeah, I think so. Because we moved in 2019, I think.
In that case, it must have been, yeah. 3 years ago.
3 years, that's...
Nice.
Doesn't feel like it, mostly because
No.
2020 was awful, 2021 was awful, 2022 was awful. This year's been okay so far. Besides, it's just politics in general being awful.
See, I have the wonderful, during, from 2019 to, I think 2021, I want to say, I did the paper route. Well, even before that. So I did it, I think, starting in 2016 or 2017. anyway, so I did the paper out, so I'd read the news. And normally it was fine, it was whatever. Like, the newspaper I delivered, it was kind of liberal, but it was local, and even when talking about foreign stuff, they usually kept pretty neutral. So it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, updating us on the news. And then, once 2020, well, first 2019, and all the idiotic stuff they're doing, Trump's impeachment, and still trying to, in 2019, say that the election was stolen.
And,
And then Uno reverse.
it turns out Hillary was working with the Russians and not Trump.
I don't know whether that's true or not.
It's highly suggested by those emails. Granted, they were deleted, so.
What emails?
There were, the reason that Trump was going on, like, Hillary for prison, rather than Hillary for president, was the FBI had found that she had emails that were top secret that had been leaked.
Yeah.
So.
But also because Donald Trump likes making nicknames for his.
True.
So
we had criminal Hillary, Lying Ted,
Sleepy
Joe, which is now Crooked Joe because Sleepy is.
Still he's been.
Yeah, but
he's kind of sleepy. He just has a lot of crooked friends.
Honestly, look at his son.
All right, but this isn't a politics podcast.
No.
Anyway, because 2020. I'd read the newspaper while delivering it, and I came to the conclusion, man, they're all just a bunch of liars, and this isn't helping my life at all.
Yep.
So I stopped reading the news, I stopped watching the news, and if something important happens, I'm telling you, every single time, day of, or the most was 2 days after, I'd hear about it from someone else that did watch or read the news. So I was like, oh, so if it's important, I'll hear it from an actual person. And if it's news, if it's, propaganda, or, an idiot did a stupid thing, then I won't hear about it. And so far, my life has been great.
Yeah, and usually I will hear the important news from memes before I hear it from any actual news source.
Yes, I didn't watch the Oscars at all, and I'm just going through Instagram Reels, and all of a sudden, every single reel is talking about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. And it's like, and I'm just oh, that's funny. I must have, what? Huh? What? Huh? And then I finally had to go watch a YouTube video being like, what is this?
The best part about that whole Will Smith Chris Rock thing is, he said the joke, which was, Jada Smith, G.I. Jane 2, good to see you there, which he was making fun of her being bald, and then it cuts to Will Smith, he's laughing, cuts back to Chris Rock, then cuts back to Will Smith as he yells, keep my wife's name out of your mouth.
No, he doesn't say that until after slapping him.
No, he says it. Wait, yeah, he does.
Yeah,
you're right. So
yeah, so here's what happened. This is a conspiracy podcast, just so you know. It seems like he was like, oh, that's kind of funny, and also he's just laughing with the crowd. That's what an entertainer does.
And then he looked at Jada,
and he's like, oh, my wife doesn't think this is funny. Oh, she's really upset by this. And he's gonna protect his wife's dignity. But he took it too far.
Yeah, at that point, just be like, hey, Chris, why don't you not talk about my wife?
All the yelling he did was like, oh, that makes sense. Slapping someone?
That's a little less, especially because Chris Rock is a, comedian. He's not meaning anything by
Though
it.
I would say that's kind of the dumbest excuse that I've heard so many times. He's a comedian. He said something offensive.
But he makes his money off of making fun of people. That's what his whole purpose is. So,
I will say, over the past, 3 or 4 years, I've tried my best to always have my comedy be neutral or uplifting.
Yeah.
Unless I'm good friends with people, I try not to insult people very much.
Yeah, and then usually I'll tell people, look, if I say anything offensive to you, I don't mean anything by it. Because if I don't like someone, I'm not going to mess around with them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if I don't like someone, well, I won't be mean to them unless they start antagonizing.
There's
which is not a good thing.
No.
Do as I say, not as I do. If someone's antagonizing you, the best thing to do, and the thing I've been able to do mostly lately, is walk away.
Yep. That's pretty much the only thing.
Because if you let your emotions get the best of you, you will make yourself a fool, and you'll upset them, and, like, if there's anyone unsaved in that room, you might have just turned them away from the gospel.
Yeah. Completely agree with that. Really, the only thing I won't stand up for, you can make fun of me all you want, I really do not care.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when you start getting to my family, behind their back, that's when I'm like, alright, I'm not dealing with this, and you're gonna stop that.
Yeah, I've had a situation that recently made me so mad. Someone was threatening my sister.
I wouldn't. I'm scared of your sisters.
You're scared of my sisters?
Especially Becca.
She made that bad of a name for herself?
No, she just scares me. I can be friends with someone and they still scare me.
Trust me, Joy has the potential for more evil.
I believe it, but I mean.
Though honestly, she's also just, if you're friends with her, she's great. If you're not, she'll ignore you.
Honestly, that's one of the best ways to kind of let someone know you don't like them without being mean to them. Just kind of ignore them.
But like, even if if she's okay with someone, half the time she'll ignore them. Anyway.
That's.
She's just like, it's not worth my time.
Yeah, but yeah, family is.
But if you get on her bad side,
family and friends, I will not put up with people mocking.
Yeah.
Because unless they're right there, in which case they can help. They can take care of
yeah,
themselves.
exactly. Well, and if the power dynamic is right.
And there's two different kinds of people. There's people I will let make fun of my sisters because I know that they actually do not mean anything by it.
Yeah.
And then there's people I'm just like, no, you're not gonna do that because I don't trust them enough to believe that it's not on purpose.
Well, yeah, and that's like something where there's a difference between teasing someone and making fun of them.
Exactly.
Teasing, that's great. I'm all for that.
Iron sharpeneth iron. You can't sharpen something without beating it against another thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, we all need to toughen up every once in a while. Not to mention, if someone's really good at it, really good at insults, they can make it funny. And there's certain people that know how far to take it. Mm-hmm. And so, if one of my friends is getting teased by another one of their friends, I'll laugh along with them and I'll join in because I know, oh, we're all having fun.
Yeah.
But there's a difference.
Exactly.
And then if you start making fun of someone, I will immediately shut it down.
Exactly.
Because
it's just not worth the breath.
No, it's just inconsiderate.
Exactly.
And so I'm a strong believer in standing up for someone, but in doing so, you still need to be a gentleman to the person you're standing up against.
Exactly. Like, don't go up to him and slap him like Will Smith to Chris Rock.
Yeah, no.
Like, be like, hey man, that's a little too far. Maybe pull it back a little bit.
And then if they keep going, you just
they just walk away.
Then you become more stern. You just, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
This isn't funny.
Third strike, you're out, and you just leave.
Well, yeah, but you make sure you leave with the person that's being insulted.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah. There are certain things I've learned. There's certain, you can only take it too far.
Mm-hmm.
So far. But yeah. Anyway, so what else about you?
I don't know. I could give my testimony. I mean,
yeah, that'd be great. Actually, go ahead.
2012, February. February 9th is actually the day I got saved. But I think it was the previous Sunday. Mrs. Souza, actually, that's Souza's wife.
Mm-hmm.
She was teaching Sunday school, and she talked about heaven and hell. And I knew, I was like, maybe I don't want to go to hell. And I just talked to my dad afterwards. He's like, you're a sinner? Yep. Christ died for you? Yep. All right, you just got to pray. And so I prayed and I got saved February 9th, 2012. That's
Nice.
simple.
Yeah, my testimony, I think I've given it here, but I'll give it again. It's similar. And mine was that I'd heard about, the gospel. I've heard plenty of times because both of us are second generation Christians. And so I heard about it, and I almost thought about it in like a logical way, which is, if somebody loved me so much that they're willing to die for me without knowing me, then yeah, I'll love them back. Yeah, I'll serve them. I'll give them. So it was just more of, hey, I want to serve you because that's a lot of love, and I want to love you back.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was almost like just a logical, like, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I love to do the Christian life. Yeah.
At junior camp, I was serving on Stack Force this past year.
Oh yeah.
And junior camp, I'm not gonna say the kid's name for privacy reasons, but this kid he went to the altar. I got to talk to him. Like, hey, what can I pray for you? I want to get saved. All right. Took him to the back. I'm like, all right, you're a sinner. Yep. Christ died for you. Yep. All right. All you gotta do is pray and confess your sins to him. The kid literally said, "That's it." So I'm like, yep. He's like, I don't know how to pray that. And I'm like, all right. So I read Romans 10:9, if thou believe with your heart, confess with your mouth, Lord Jesus, thou shalt be saved. It's like, okay, so like, what would I pray? I'm like, just go, like, yeah, dear Lord, I'm a sinner. Please come to my heart, save me. He's like, all right. And so he prayed. Not the exact prayer, because I don't think the 1, 2, 3 pray after me actually works.
No. Well, and
I mean, like, could someone, if they meant it, get saved from that? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But I don't really like the ideology of 1, 2, 3 pray after me, because it's like, it's not their words. And I feel like it's really easy to be insincere and not genuine with that.
Yeah.
And then they could grow up the rest of their life thinking they got saved, but not actually.
Yeah. I've learned, if someone is truly, like, people know how to say they're sorry. People know how to say thank you, in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned, if they truly understand what salvation is, they're gonna know what to say. Even they'll question whether there's a certain way. But when you explain, no, there's no certain way. This is what you're telling God. And if you want to tell him that, tell him that.
Yeah, and really salvation is that simple. It's really, I think that's the reason people don't get saved more often. It's because it's just too simple.
Yeah, it's
because everything else in life is so overly complicated. It doesn't make sense for it to be simple.
Yeah, it's the Christian life. I will say it's not always easy, but it is always simple.
I'd say it's almost exactly like climbing a flight of stairs. First step is always the easiest.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you assume those stairs don't actually work, then this first step is the hardest.
Yeah.
It's like climbing an invisible flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Over top of the Grand Canyon.
Then you have to trust that God's gonna lead you through it, and He's right there next. He's like, all right, just take one more step. Take one more step.
It's like, yeah, it's like climbing an invisible flight of stairs.
And then you can always fall. You can always fall backwards too.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you just gotta keep going though.
Because going downstairs is not difficult.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. You can fall down the stairs.
Yeah, it'll hurt too if you fall. Mm-hmm. If you fall, it hurts.
Yeah. But you can
get
stop.
Up.
You can keep, and you can get back up.
The only thing about the invisible flight of stairs with the Christian life, though, is you can't go back up the first step.
No.
It's like there's a wall there, or a gate, like a baby gate.
Yeah. It's like your dad's at the bottom.
Waiting
so
to
he'll
catch you.
waiting to catch you in
Yeah.
case you fall. Because literally, yes. Even if you fall all the way back to the bottom, your Father's there.
Mm-hmm. That's honestly one of the greatest things about the Christian walk. I think Christianity, like not the Catholic version, not the Lutheran version of Christianity,
The
but
Bible
the Bible version, like the phrase "we're Baptist because of the Bible." I agree with that.
Yeah.
But if you follow Christianity according to the Bible, it is the most comforting thing you can possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
Because to start, it's the most simple way to get to heaven. Okay, you just have to confess. 2, all you have to do after that is serve God. That's it.
Yeah, and he lays it out what you have to do.
And then you want to know what the coolest thing is?
Yeah.
His mercy renews every morning.
That's something I've thought about a lot, which is just like insane.
Because
like,
if God's mercy did not renew every morning, what would be the chance I'd wake up and then just not be able to function at all?
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, think about this. If somebody punched you in your face and then kicked your sister, would you forgive him the next morning?
Probably not.
Right? And yet God will.
And we killed his son.
We killed his son, and he's just like... And then the next day, he's just like, you're all forgiven. Like, how do you wrap your mind around that sort of love?
Exactly.
The amount of... Because I don't think nearly anyone in the world can actually wrap their heads around unconditional love.
It's not.
Because
it's not a human thing to do.
No.
There's no possible way for a human to give unconditional love.
We try as much as we can, but like, if someone's not reciprocating our love, it feels almost impossible to keep loving them.
Yeah.
Or if somebody is rude to us, it feels almost impossible to love them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many ways. It's like, oh, that... Or someone has some nasty sin that really revolts us. It's hard for us to love them. And, like, God knows all. And he's perfect. Any wrong that we've done, he's against. And yet he still loves us. It makes no sense.
So something kind of related to that. When I first started like going out on invitation days and witnessing to people,
Yeah.
I always thought because of all like the stories you read and the stuff you've heard in Sunday school, you always think that people are gonna be like, "Oh, I don't need God. I have a perfect life. My life's good." It's actually kind of the opposite. Like I've gone to so many people's houses and been like, "Hey, I'm from Wildwood Baptist Church. I'm from this church. When I was in Oak Creek, I was a First Baptist. I'd like to talk to you about God. Go through it, talk to him." They're like, "Oh, God wouldn't want anything to do with me. I sin too much." If Jeffrey Dahmer could get saved,
I know. It's insane. Like,
if Paul, one of my favorite characters in the Bible, Paul, before he got saved, Saul, okay,
Mhm.
what did he do?
Stone-
He didn't stone Stephen, but he held the coats of that.
Oh, yeah, and then...
He literally took people out of their homes and took them to prison.
For preaching the gospel.
For preaching the gospel.
It's
And
like,
then God comes to him and is like, "Saul, Saul,
why persecutest thou?
why persecutest thou me?" And then Saul's like, "Oh, okay. This is not what I was thinking."
Yeah.
And turns around. He's blind for 3 days, but gets... And actually I've heard some stuff that I forget the name of the guy, but the guy in Damascus who healed Paul's blindness, I've heard a lot of rumors and like theories that guy was a Gentile. So that would be cool. And that would make sense as to why he's called to the Gentiles. But yeah, Paul's a really cool character.
Yeah. The fact that, like... Because you always think, you know, oh, I'm too bad to be able to do this, do that. God just was like, ha, Paul. It's like, oh, no.
Why else would God...
He's not... See, like, he's not just, like, a fisherman that swears a lot.
That's Peter.
You know, that's Peter. He's not like someone who grew up in a Christian home like John, the brother of Jesus. He's not someone who, was a philosopher or a merchant. I think Philip was a merchant.
Yeah, I think Philip was a merchant. Luke was a doctor.
Yeah, Luke was a doctor. So it's like, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. These people would become preachers and preach the gospel. And it's like Paul, he actively hunted down members of the church.
And then the other thing is, so one of the things that I think like Paul isn't one of the great. Hey, he's a great example for people, but he doesn't really apply to those that have never heard. Because Paul heard. He was a Pharisee. He knew the scriptures inside and out.
Which is another thing. He's known the scriptures inside and out, and he still rejected it.
But I think one of the best examples, for those that have never heard, Levi, Matthew. He was a tax collector. They were hated equally by both the Romans and the Jews.
Yeah.
He was hated by his employers and those he took money from. I actually did a message on Matthew for Team Takeover service.
Okay, yeah.
And I think my opening thing, which my dad helped me out with, my introduction, because you always want to have something that people will remember.
Yeah.
People were so confused when I started, because I'm like, imagine you're part of a church that's looking for a pastor, and the deacons are up, the head deacon's up there, and you bring forth a stack of resumes. Take one, give it to him. He's like, oh, this guy's a Bible student. He went to Bible college for 4 years, has a pastor's degree. Nope, we don't want him. Crumpled it up to paper, threw it off to the side. Pull the next one. This guy's a missionary's kid. Comes from a long line of pastors. Nope, we don't want him. Threw it off to the side. Next guy. Oh, he's been a pastor. He's a previous pastor of another church. Nope, we don't want him. You know what we need? We need a guy who works for the government. Not only that, he works for the IRS. We want him. We want that guy. And he lies, and he takes more money than he's supposed to. That's the guy we want. That's what Jesus was to Matthew. And I think it's crazy. One of the craziest things to me. So I did a little more study into the whole thing. It's in Matthew and I think Luke. It's in Matthew because Matthew wrote it. But in Matthew it records that Jesus said, "Rise and follow me." And that rise can also be defined as to stand up and to get ready for a journey. So Matthew was not only getting up to follow him, he was preparing for a journey. That's one. The second thing is he did it without question. He didn't ask any questions. It's not recorded in Matthew. It's not recorded in Luke that he went to Jesus. He's like, oh, wait until I'm done with my job. Wait until the end of the day. He didn't say that. He did it immediately. The third thing, Matthew doesn't record it. Luke records this. Matthew held a feast for Jesus. And the funniest thing about that, and I brought it up with my dad, so my dad, whenever we do Tea Takeover, he says he always looks for something that he had never thought of. And the thing that he said that he had never thought of is, when do you make a feast? I have a family, okay? I have family on my mom's side. There's 27 of us, including my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, and all the cousins.
Okay,
27 of us. We don't get together that often. When do we get together? Only on holidays.
Yeah.
And that's a feast. I'd consider 27 people, that's a feast.
Yeah.
So, Matthew took time out of his day to hold a feast, which was usually only for holidays, for Jesus. That's how important he thought Jesus was. And he was a tax collector. Nobody likes tax collectors. Imagine, like, you get married, you have a kid, later in life, kids like 6, right? Kids are like, oh, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman. He goes up to you, he's like, hey, Dad, I want to work for the IRS. You would be shocked. Because no one likes the IRS. No one, except for the IRS.
The IRS.
And the government. That's about it.
Yeah. Executive branch likes the IRS.
But Matthew's just a really cool character, too. Like, and we don't even really think about Matthew. Like, when you're going over the disciples, you usually only talk about Peter or John or...
Yeah, Peter,
or
James,
Andrew.
and John.
Peter, James, and John.
Like, those are the
first disciple. Or Nathaniel.
Or Judas.
Judas.
People talk about Judas.
Judas is... I don't...
He needs his own episode.
He's confusing to me.
He, honestly... You know what Judas is to me? He is every second generation Christian.
It does feel like it.
Right? He followed the ways of God. He helped. He served. But his heart was never in it.
I'm thinking more third generation with that one, but yes.
Yeah, but like he was part of them, but he wasn't of them.
Yeah. But one of the funniest, like not funny, but one of the most interesting parts of Judas, what did he do after Jesus was killed?
Hung himself.
He hung himself, and you know what hanging was back then. It wasn't, you didn't take a noose and hang yourself. You would fall on a sharp stick. That's how you'd kill yourself. You would just, basically, you'd put a stick in the ground and then just stake yourself through the stomach or through the heart. And that's how you would hang. I don't really understand the English behind that, but then again.
Probably your arms and head.
No, but it was not a pleasant way to go. And he gave the money back to the Pharisees, and they bought a field.
I know.
And that fit with prophecy. But, like, Judas, like, what? He accepted the 30 pieces of silver, which wasn't a lot. It's what you would buy a slave for. And...
yeah.
And it really, it's... Why would you even do that if you later killed yourself over it?
Well, I mean, it says the devil entering into him.
That is true.
It's like, I know, see, here's the thing. To people like us, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because two things about us is, one, we've known nothing else except for Christianity. And two, both of us have decided we want to do it for ourselves. So we don't want to leave it. And so, but there's so many Christian kids that leave.
Mm-hmm.
And just, forsake it for just pennies.
Like we had, a former, well, I guess pretty much everyone in our church is former teen group, but
yeah,
we had someone, he's in his 20s now, I'm not going to say his name for privacy reasons again, but he taught one lesson. He's like, in my friend group, there was like, I think he said eight people in his friend group, like immediate friend group.
Yeah.
And they were all talking about how they were going to serve God later in life. They're just going to do a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you want to know how many of those guys are still going to church? 2. Myself and another guy.
Wow.
And that's just, because like, I talk
out of 8?
Out of 8. I'm talking with my friends, and like, another friend of mine, he was like, he brought up the fact that, will we still be friends in our adulthood, because I never really see my parents hang out with friends. I mean, every once in a while I'll have people over, but like, they don't really hang out. And then, it's just another thing, like, how many of us are going to leave? And like, I
know,
I pray that it's not me. And I don't think it will be, but then again, neither did any of that guy's friends.
I don't know why it happens, but I have a suspicion. Because here's the thing.
We see something that we think is better.
Well, and we just don't see what's all the hoopla about the Christian life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, think about it. Without, like, you had a dad that actually was able to invest time and teach you about, what it is to be a Christian. My dad, he was a truck driver, and so he wasn't there a lot, and, like, absolutely no disrespect to him. He was providing for the family, and that's what he could do. And so that happened for a while, and then he worked a couple of jobs where he was working like 50, 60 hours, 70 hours. It was a lot. And I grew up when I was a little kid not really knowing much, not really involving myself in much of church except for going to church. And then I got older and I didn't change much until we went to Pioneer, and the youth leader there, Mr. Ives.
Yeah.
He had something he would tell our group, and it actually changed my life and could have possibly saved me from a lot of heartache of learning the wrong way what isn't or isn't a good idea. He said that Christians should be asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the stage, now that we're teens, that we should be asking why. He's like, so if you have a question, ask why.
Yeah.
And he would do his best in his classes to answer the whys. And then, so instead of just assuming all of Christianity was good or garbage, I just started looking at it piece by piece. And I found out a lot of the stuff that I've been taught, and a lot of the stuff we do, is garbage. A lot of it is great. And then it slowly realized, like, even the Baptist church, if you go to a Baptist church, you have less than a 50% chance of going to a good one. Most of them don't use the right version, don't have the right music, don't have the right fellowship, don't have a good dress standard. You know, there's so many things. Have a bad spirit where everyone's judging, everyone's gossiping. Like, something could be wrong. So, being a Baptist, that's not really worth a lot, just on its own, the name, the label. And so I kept searching and searching. What is there that is just definitively good? The only thing is the Bible.
Yeah.
Your parents have flaws. Your friends are going to let you down. If relationships aren't going to work. The only thing is the Bible. And so I was able to come to a conclusion where I don't know a lot. I'm not that smart. I wasn't raised by missionaries or pastor. But I know the Bible's true. So I'm going to start learning about the Bible. And if a church preaches the Bible, I'll go to that church, regardless of what it says on the label. And if my friends like the Bible, I'll hang out with those friends, regardless of who they are or where they're from.
So one of the things that I actually like is when a team leader or a youth leader or even a pastor brings up something that we do in our church but isn't in the Bible. Like Pastor Ingalls, you know Pastor Ingalls, right? So he
Was it Jeremy?
Yeah. He was teaching teen group, and he said, "You know why we have church on Wednesdays?" No, well, it's not in the Bible. What do you mean it's not in the Bible? Neither Sunday night. What are you talking about? What do you mean Wednesday night and Sunday night they're not in the Bible? Hey, I grew up and I was always like, if you miss Sunday night or Wednesday night, you're going to hell. You're awful. You're an awful person. Like that's kind of how I just thought. It's my thought process.
Yeah.
I didn't miss church unless I was sick.
Yeah.
And then he brought up, yeah, it only says in the Bible, remember the Sabbath. And we only have to visit once. But he's like, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. And I'm just like, okay, that makes more sense. You want to spend time with the assembly of God.
Yeah, and see, that's the biggest thing. For me, there's a lot of things where people try to prove that, like, this is not in the Bible. Or this isn't wrong because the Bible doesn't say it's wrong. And, church, that's a great example. My opinion on it, you're correct. Wednesday night, not in the Bible. Sunday night, not in the Bible. Why then did I tell my employer I can't work any Sundays and I cannot work Wednesday night? Why would I say that?
Because you don't want to forsake the assembly of God together.
Because I want to be in church.
Exactly.
I want to learn. I want to fellowship with my church family. I want to help. It's that there's something more than obligation.
Exactly.
If a Christian is just a Christian out of obligation, even Paul says, don't be a Christian. If it's only because of obligation, if that's the only reason, it's like, I'm doing this because I have to. Like, even with giving, he says, not out of necessity or grudgingly. God loves a cheerful giver.
Exactly.
If you're going to live the Christian life begrudgingly, you're going to quit.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's probably some of the reason that people leave church.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this is done. But it's not.
I mean,
but
from a purely human perspective,
yes.
Kind of.
It's pretty stupid from a human perspective. Why would you give up 2 days you'd be working 8 hours?
Yeah. Why would you give up a rest day? Why would you give up your money? Why would you give up your time? Why wouldn't you be able, live it up? The party life. You have to forsake all that. From a human perspective, it's like, yeah, there's a lot more I could be doing. But when you think about it from a godly perspective, you're like, nope, this is it.
And then the flip side of that is don't do too much. God doesn't call us to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had someone, I'm not going to say their name, again, privacy, and I just don't want
their name is Fred.
Yes, Fred. Let's say Fred.
Yeah.
Granted, there is a Fred in our church, but it's not him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
But, so Fred, he does bus, and I do choir. That's what I do, because I enjoy singing, and I feel like if God's gifted me with a voice, I should use it.
Yeah.
And so I do choir. But I go to the 8 o'clock service and the 8 a.m. service, and then the 9 so I can go home, enjoy an afternoon, and then I go in at 4.
Yeah.
For choir practice. But I was there at 8, the bus leaves at 8. And he said, hey, why don't you come on bus today? I'm like, no, it's not my ministry. I don't like kids very much. I mean, would it probably help? Probably. I just don't want to be the reason someone leaves.
I mean, fair.
And then, but Fred turns to another guy, we'll call him Bob. Fred turns to Bob and says, excuses are like noses, everyone's got one. In front of me, within earshot. Well, thank you. That really made me want to do bus even more. So, don't expect that everyone's going to do everything. But if they have a ministry, let them do that ministry. And if they enjoy the ministry, let them enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say that a good idea when doing a ministry, again, it should be because you want to.
Like, I have a friend, you know him, I'm not going to say his name, again, privacy reasons, but he does, I feel like he's so serious about everything. Like at camp, he went up to me, he's like, you know, would you be open to being better friends? And I'm like, I wanted to laugh. Because, of course, I want to be good friends with everyone. But he's like, so he already does youth group. He already helps with the younger kids.
Yeah.
And he's like, I should probably go to the bus meeting tonight and go to that and start going on the bus. I'm like, you're already doing youth. Your family's traveling. You don't have to. If you're already doing one ministry, that's all you have to do, unless you feel God calling you to do another thing. But I feel like so there's two sides of Christians. There's those that don't want to do anything, and those that want to do too much. I mean, there are those in the middle who are content to stay where they're at.
Here's what I would say though. If you have the time and energy to do more, you can.
Exactly.
Because I wouldn't ever tell someone they can't do more. Because what better thing is there to do besides serve God?
Exactly. And like when I told this guy, don't do it, it wasn't because I was like, oh, you can't do that, you're already doing one. It was more of, save yourself the sanity.
He's stretching himself too thin.
Because, again, that's another reason Christians leave. They feel like no one else is doing any work. And I've heard something where it's 10% of a church does 90% of the work. Well, and I am so glad that I'm in a church that 90% does 100% of the work. Like 90% of us do we all work together. But then again, I've heard stories. Again, Pastor Ingalls told me of one where him and his wife were in charge of this event, and they had a sign-up sheet for help. Like, I think it was like 15 people signed up. Only one showed up, and it was an hour late.
Oh, wow.
And then when Pastor Ingalls, sorry, because he's pastor now,
yeah,
asked why he was late, he's like, oh, because usually in this church, if you leave something, someone else is going to do it. And I'm glad that that's what happens, but that shouldn't be your attitude about it. Because if you sign up for something, if you volunteer for something, it better be a good reason you're not doing it.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. I don't think there's any. We need a lot more honesty in this world.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that one guy, oh, excuses. I've learned this. Because sometimes you actually do have a legitimate excuse that actually makes sense. Nobody cares. I've learned that. And it's a harsh and hard reality especially as a guy.
So
nobody cares.
I think something else that people take for granted and mistake is they're always like, oh, there are no excuses. No! There are excuses. There are good, legitimate excuses.
But I have learned.
But you shouldn't have an excuse for everything.
I have learned. Say, I come to you, I say, I'm going to be at your house at 3:30. is there a good reason to not be at your house at 3:30?
Yes.
Yes. But if I'm late and it's not something huge, like, if I was married and my wife started, going into labor, okay, that makes sense. But for most things, I've learned, I've stopped giving excuses. Because it just isn't worth my time or energy. I'll just be like, sorry, I'm late.
Yep. That's pretty much all you can do, especially now that I've started working a job.
Yes. Jobs taught me that.
I was like, my employer's probably not going to care what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
They just want me there on time.
Yep.
I was both upset and frustrated, and I was very scared of losing my job when this happened. It was during EAA.
Oh, yeah.
Wednesday, I was helping with, I was supposed to work, I looked at so we have this app called Teamwork where it shows where you're scheduled.
Yeah.
It showed I was scheduled Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Okay.
I checked it. Monday and Tuesday night. I checked it. That was the last time I had checked it. And I was like, because I'm not scheduled for Wednesday, even though I had talked with my manager like a couple days before, or actually, sorry, the previous week, I was like, I can work on Wednesday morning as long as it's not Wednesday night because I have stuff on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, I'll put you as Wednesday morning, but they didn't. So I was like, oh, maybe they just didn't need help. So I went to EAA for like 2-3 hours, and I was there, and then I came back to my house, and then I was helping run the VBS during Wings as Eagles meeting.
The
meeting in the air. And I look at my phone at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
And because the thing started at 7, look at 6:30, I see a message from my manager. Oh, that's weird. Click it. Hey, you missed your shift today. What do you mean I missed my shift today? Yeah, you were scheduled for today from, I think it was like 12:30 to 5:30. And I was like, I had a shift? So I quick looked at my thing, and I'm like, there it is. I'm scheduled.
Oh,
They
no.
must have scheduled me the morning of. And I had not checked it that morning.
Oh.
And I was scheduled for the next day. So I go in, and the manager the manager wasn't there. And
Yeah.
one of the shift leads was there. I'm like, hey, sorry about yesterday. I should have checked Wednesday morning. And I put all the blame on me. I should have checked Wednesday morning. I didn't. That's my fault. Because if you miss your entire shift, that's a fireable offense.
Oh, yeah.
And
easily.
So he's like, well, it should be no big deal. Talk to the manager. When she gets here, she'll be here in like an hour. So I was like, I'm waiting with bated breath. Luckily, I know the manager pretty well. And so I talked to my manager. I'm like, hey, sorry about yesterday. I should have checked it that morning. I did not. That is my fault. I will accept any punishment you give me. I'll work extra today. I'll take a break and work extra. She's like, oh, no big deal. We didn't actually have a whole lot of customers.
Oh, wow.
I noticed that my message didn't actually go through. I texted you at the beginning of your shift, but it didn't go through until after your shift was over.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, if you be honest, most of the time God's gonna, as long as it wasn't like a stupid thing, like you saw it and didn't.
Here's the thing. If you make a mistake, 90% of the time, there will be serious consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're honest, they'll usually come swiftly and immediately. If you lie about it, they are delayed and they are much worse.
Oh, yeah. So, this is this is funny to me. So I like video games. I like electronics. I like all that, right?
Yeah, me too.
So I was like, I was 8.
Okay.
And so we did family prayer time. We don't do it as much anymore because we're older and we're like, our parents are trying to teach us to do that on our own.
Yeah.
We used to hold family prayer time and we'd all pray. All 6 of us. We'd pray and we'd go over like stuff that happened in the week. It was like a family prayer meeting.
Yeah.
It was fun. There was one time my grandma Longside, who sadly passed away like 4 years ago.
Okay.
But she had given me a Nintendo 3DS.
Nice.
And I had Mario. I
I
loved playing Mario. I was playing it, and I was playing it before prayer time. And my dad said it was time to get off. Okay, we'll get off in a little bit. I'm going to finish this level. And I kept dying, and I kept trying to play through the level. and beat it, right? Rather than just turn it off. And it's like, Reagan, I told you to turn it off. I'm like, sorry. And I kept playing. So eventually,
Oh no.
my dad takes it. And he starts playing. I'm like, give me my 3DS. He's like, no. I'm playing with it right now. Because he couldn't get off it. And eventually, I got so mad, I refused to pray at prayer time. So my dad's like, all right, if electronics are going to affect you that much, you're grounded for a year. You don't get electronics for a year. Granted, I was 8, I need electronics.
Yeah.
This was back before everyone had a phone or an iPad.
Yeah.
So it made sense. And I was not happy. But year went, not year, but 9-10 months went by. And eventually, I started taking so my dad had this old iPad that we would use as a kid iPad. Started taking that, playing on it in my room. The door was shut. Like, yeah, because there was a door here, there was like a wall, and then there was like a closet without a door. I would just stand there. And then I had like a box of clothes or something like that, or a dress. I forget what it was. But I would stand there with my dresser drawer open. And I'd shut the door completely. And if I heard the door open, I'd put it in there, shut the drawer as quickly as possible. And that's what I did for like a month or two.
Wow.
And my parents started getting suspicious because I was always in my room. So I started coming in, and then my dad was like, Reagan, are you on electronic? Nope, I'm not. Okay. Went on for like another month. And eventually, my dad caught me. Of course he did. Be sure your sin will find you out.
Yeah.
And I'm 8, so it's given. It's a given he's going to find me. He's like, Reagan, were you on electronic before this? Eventually I said yes. Right? Because it's your dad. You have to say yes.
Yeah.
And he's like, because you lied to me, you're grounded for another year. And I was distraught. Because, of course, I'm now, and then I turned 9. Couldn't even play on my birthday.
Yeah.
And I had gotten video games for Christmas. My parents had already bought them.
Wow.
And I got video games for Christmas. And when my cousins came over, I couldn't play video games with them. Couldn't do anything. I had a Wii. And I played a lot of Mario Kart.
Oh, man.
Mario Kart Wii. So
Mario Kart Wii is the
it's
best.
the OG. So good.
I
had Madden 11 too, which was another really good one. I had the good games. I had Wipeout for the Wii, which is one of the funniest games still. I still play it every once in a while. But I'm like, eventually I just was like, alright, and I submit to my dad's will. And like 3 months later, my dad's like, because you've been so good, man, you're grounding here.
Ah.
So I got to, so Christmas had passed, right?
Yeah.
And actually, if my birthday came around, my dad had let me play because I'd been good for a month. But then like 2 months later, he's like, yeah, you're done. There you go. Because you behaved, because you didn't lie to me, because you weren't on it, I trust you, you're good. And I was just, that was great because I learned if you prove that you are trustworthy, your parents will let you have more freedom.
And that's true in all of life.
In all of life. And my dad's given me so many good lessons.
Yeah, your dad seems.
And like, I know a lot of like, it's stereotypical teens are like, oh, I know more than my dad. I don't. And I accept that. I don't think I've ever been that way in my teens. I feel like the worst boys are junior high age. But
yeah, like middle school, junior high, just
back to my dad's story stuff. Like dad teaching me great things. So my dad taught me about responsibility.
Okay.
And now, so I can drive now, and I've gone out with friends, and my friends are like, because you've been so trustworthy in the past, we don't really have a set curfew. Just try to be home before midnight. All right? Yeah. And because I'm home before then, and I try to do my best, and I keep them updated as much as I can, they trust me. Yeah. And that's because it would be the worst thing to break your parents' trust. Because the worst feeling is when your dad looks disappointed. Like, if your mom looks disappointed, it's like, okay, she's my mom. She loves me, and that's why she's disappointed. But if your dad's disappointed, it just hits worse. I don't know why, but it does.
It's interesting. I think my family dynamic is actually switched.
I don't know. Maybe it's just
bad. I do know what you're feeling.
There's no worse feeling than disappointing your parents.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks whenever you do.
Another story, my dad being really, really cool of like teaching me great stuff. I was misbehaving at home. This was back when I was homeschooled in Oak Creek.
Okay,
So
yeah.
if we were misbehaving, my mom, I think it was like a 3-strike system. If my mom couldn't get us under control in 3 strikes, she was calling my dad, and my dad was picking us up, taking us back to his office, and then he'd chew us out, usually, probably yell at us a little bit, put the fear of God into us, and then we'd do our homework there. And then we'd go home when he came home, regardless of if we finished our homework
Yeah.
or not. And there was no fun at my dad's office. Just my dad. And if he's already mad at you, you don't talk to him. You don't.
No.
But there was one time I misbehaved. 3 strikes. I'm out. Dad picked me up. I'm expecting him to yell at me. Nothing. Just silence. Whole car ride back to church. Silence. Get to church. Silence. I'm sitting there doing my work, and eventually he's like, Reagan, come over here. So he didn't have a very big office. It was probably about the same size as your room here.
Okay, yeah.
His desk was about where your chair was.
Okay, yeah.
Over there. And he said, Reagan, come over here. And I was sitting probably in the back of the room. Come on up to the door. He pulls a $1 bill out of his pocket. He's like, how much is this worth? $1. Okay. Ripped it about halfway down the middle. And he's like, how much is it worth now? Still $1. Okay, then he ripped it up into tiny pieces and threw it away. How much is it worth now? Nothing. That's your reputation. You can rip it slowly, but once you rip it, it's worth nothing. Once you complete, it's gone. You can't bring back your reputation, even if your character is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change your reputation once it gets to a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true.
There's someone that I go to school with who I think is almost at that point, if not at that point. And I wanted to be as friendly as possible to him last year, but they proved that they could not be friendly to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
But that's your reputation. Once you've ripped it, you can't get it back.
Yeah. Man, I tell you what, I had to learn that later in my life. I didn't learn that early enough, and my reputation was like that close from being gone. Just a hair away. Cuz I didn't know what I was doing. I was dumb, and I wanted to be popular.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually in my teen years, like your age, I think, probably, I just kind of did whatever to get attention. And that almost destroyed my reputation.
Mm-hmm. Being popular is one of the greatest lies that the world pushes.
Oh, it is. It's
because if you try to be popular, you're most likely not going to be popular. Because people are going to see you as annoying and childish. But if you just be friendly and be just kind of mediocre. Like, not like mediocre as in like just be like the guy that...
Just
be like steady. And be friendly. Be steady and friendly.
Yeah.
And faithful and friendly. There we go. It's alliterative.
Faithful and friendly.
And that's pretty much what's going to gain you friends. And as long as you stay loyal and you don't...
But also, popularity is a double-edged sword.
Yeah. It can be good and it can be bad.
It's always a lot of pressure. And if you so much as let yourself feed into it a little bit, it will destroy you.
What was the first sin committed?
First sin committed was pride.
That's something to think about.
I will be like the Most High.
Yeah. We aren't, as not as Christians, as humans, we think of, murder. Murder is the worst. Child murder is the absolute worst thing you can possibly do.
Or other nasty stuff along
things.
that line.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
One of the worst sins you can commit is pride. Because that is the basis for every single sin you can possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can name a single sin where there's not some aspect of pride.